Nora, a New York Notary Public, took the acknowledgement of a deed, but her name was misspelled on the notarial certificate. 7 months later, a party to the deed tries to invalidate it solely because of the misspelling. Which of the following statements is correct under the New York State Notary Public law? To help us answer this question, let's have a look at section 142-A of the New York State Notary Public law, and the section is entitled Validity of Acts of Notaries Public and Commissioners of Deeds notwithstanding certain defects. And it states over here, I'm not going to read the entire paragraph, but it states that certain acts will remain valid despite defects. And if we look at subsection 2 of this act, it refers to, under subsection B, misnomer or misspelling of name or other error made in his appointment or commission. Now, if we carry on in this section to subsection 3, it states that no person shall be entitled to assert the effect of this section to overcome a defect described in subdivision 2 if he knew of the defect or if the defect was apparent on the face of the certificate of the Notary Public or Commissioner of Deeds. Now, this is important, provided, however, that this subdivision shall not apply after the expiration of 6 months from the date of the act of the Notary Public or Commissioner of Deeds. So what this means is that in the event, let's say somebody wants to challenge a defect, for example, to state that it was apparent on the face or that the Notary Public knew of the defect, then the person would only have 6 months from the date of the act of the Notary Public to make that challenge. Once 6 months passes, the person is unable to further challenge that defect. So with this in mind, let's have a look at our 4 choices to determine the solution. Choice A states, the deed remains valid because the defect cannot be challenged after 6 months. Well, this aligns with what I just read from and described in the law before, but before we mark it as the correct solution, let's have a look at choices B, C, and D just to be sure. Choice B states, the deed is invalid from the start due to the notary's spelling error. Well, this is incorrect based on the law that I read from before. The deed could only be made invalid if it was successfully challenged within 6 months. Because it was not, it was challenged after 6 months, rather it was challenged in the 7th month. Therefore, the deed actually remains valid under the law, and therefore choice B is not the solution. Choice C states, the deed must be re-executed and acknowledged before a different notary. Well, this is not what's stated in the law at all, and therefore choice C is not the correct solution. And finally, choice D states, the party challenging the deed can have the deed invalidated by a court at any time. This is incorrect. The person has 6 months to make that challenge, and because the challenge here was made 7 months later, it does not remove the validity, and therefore choice D is not the correct solution either, which indeed leaves choice A. The deed remains valid because the defect cannot be challenged after 6 months as the correct solution.